So we're going to kick off things. You've been teasing on the podcast and on the Facebook page about a little bit of an announcement with fantasy football.
Yes, I do. Okay, big news. I know Derek Daniel, Adam Gumbert, Nick Caputo.
The great Nick Caputo.
Great. We are going to be doing a fantasy football podcast.
Like a phoenix from the ashes.
It rises and it will shine brightly.
So we don't know exactly when it's going to start. I believe it will be sometime in June or July. It's going to be kind of similar to the one that Willis and I used to do way back in the day.
Yeah.
So we're going to be discussing, rankings. We're going to do weekly rankings, review the games, preview the games. Very similar to the Fantasy Focus podcast with the great Matthew Berry.
We might even throw in like streamers, like, if you don't have a great starting quarterback to start off with, we'll tell you who's going up against who has the best matchup, and who's going to be in the driver's seat of the fantasy weekend.
And we'll answer questions from our awesome Facebook group, which you can find at facebook.com/group/nerdcavenetwork.
Nerdcave Network, there you go. Or you could just search in the search bar.
I was waiting for it.
I know. I got set up last week and failed miserably.
But that's okay.
It happens. I redeemed myself.
Why do we fall?
So we can pick ourselves back up.
Exactly. So let's discuss a little fantasy right now. I know we've had the draft happened about a month ago. Very successful draft for your Tennessee Titans.
Yes. Super surprised because I definitely figured that we would pick up Laramie Tunsil from Ole Miss, but he had some draft day issues with a gas mask bong.
To say the least.
So his stock plummeted. Like, I'm sure y'all know most of the story. He lost anywhere from $8 million because he was young and dumb. I mean, we've all done stupid stuff. But
what was crazy was that leaked like an hour before the draft. And I didn't even know about it until they brought it up on ESPN, and I'm like, oh boy.
I was at Willis's house when it happened, and he was scrolling through Twitter, and he's like, oh my God, Robbie, look at this. And I saw it, and it was Laramie Tunsil. He was like lifting the gas mask up laughing. I was like, this is going to hurt him. And it did.
He, I believe, was picked 12th. And
yes.
he was going to go, I believe, 5 or 6 to Baltimore. And then they passed on him and took Ronnie Stanley from Notre Dame.
But, I mean, I got somebody that I was very happy with, Conklin. Mm-hmm. He's a beast. He's very vicious in the trenches. Like, I mean, you saw what he did at Michigan State. Like, I remember watching one of the games against Alabama that they played, and Conklin just trucked one of our defensive linemen. And for him to be able to do that against an Alabama defensive lineman, that is it's a pretty big thing. Mm-hmm. And go to Taco Bell. We're not sponsored by Taco Bell, but you should go.
I wish we were.
I know.
Hashtag fourth meal.
Yeah, boy.
As far as the Steelers go, we met our needs, but we didn't exactly take who I thought we would.
Yeah.
I really wanted William Jackson from Houston, and he went the pick before us to Cincinnati because Cincinnati is a bunch of spiteful douchebags. Yeah. Granted, that was a need for them, but I'm sure that didn't hurt because there's a lot of bad blood. Like it's almost like early 2000s Steelers versus Ravens. That's how bad it is.
You can almost call it a perfect storm.
You're a terrible person.
Which is my fantasy football team because Derek hates him. Vontez Perfect.
He's a terrible human being.
He is, but that's my fantasy team name just for Derek.
So anyway, we took Artie Burns, cornerback from Miami, but yeah, I think he'll do well.
Yeah,
I have pretty high expectations. I mean, he's going to have to step in fairly quickly because to say that our secondary was bad would be an insult to bad secondaries.
Yeah. Out of the draft, you had Ezekiel Elliott going to the Cowboys.
Number 4 overall.
And Derrick Henry going to the Titans. Which one was more of a surprise for you?
Honestly, Derrick Henry.
I'm in the same boat. Like, I'm a Titans fan, if you can't tell, and I'm also an Alabama fan. I knew we needed a running back because outside of DeMarco Murray, our talent, we don't really have any. So I figured, 4th, 5th round, we'd pick up, one of those, high ceiling running backs, and then I'm sitting there, like I said, the draft at Willis's house, and I get a notification that the Titans pick up Derek Henry, and I just freaked out. And I was like, a lot of people were bashing that we took him so early and everything. But I mean, you got a 6'3", 200 and probably close to 230-pound.
He's not human.
Linebacker at running back that runs a 4.52.
Guy's a beast. Like the crazy thing, like watching him in college, he would just get stronger as the game would go on.
Yeah, he doesn't tire. He tires everybody else out, and he just punishes. Like, you're going to have these cornerbacks and safeties trying to square up on him and tackle him. He's just going to right through them. And
you've got DeMarco Murray, who led the league in rushing 2 seasons ago. So you've got pretty loaded backfield. I could definitely see, like, to start the season, like maybe a 70-30 split between. That's what I was thinking. Because that last year in Alabama, Derrick Henry was just ran into the ground, but I feel like that doesn't affect him because he wasn't doing that for 4 years at college because Alabama has always had a steady stream of really good running backs. You had Trent Richardson. After him, you had he went to the Jags. T.J. Yeldon. And then you had Derrick Henry. So that first few years, he maybe got a handful of carries. And then, his junior and senior year is when he got more of the work. So I feel like they're going to have, Murray, and with our offensive line getting better because we got Conklin and Tretola from Arkansas, we're going to have a much better offensive line, and plus having the Marcus Mariota being that dual threat quarterback that he is, it's going to be very hard to sit there and stack the box against the Titans like everybody's been doing. Right. And we have, playmakers at wide receiver now with Dorial Green-Beckham. Mm-hmm. He's a monster. He caught 4 touchdowns last year. But there were all those 50-50 balls where the dude had to, like, jump up in the air and grab them. And, I mean, I saw all 4 of them, and they were spectacular catches. So it's going to be a fun year to be a Titans fan. Is it ever really fun to be a Titans fan? Not really. Not in the past 6-7 years. But I'm hoping that this changes it. Well, your guys' division is going to be tough because the Jags loaded up on defense. Yeah. But moving on to some fantasy news, there's obviously Ezekiel Elliott, who's the consensus top rookie, and understandably so. I mean, the guy was really, really good in college. He was a complete running back. He could catch the ball, pass protect, run between the tackles. He can do it all. And he is going to be behind the best offensive line in the league. So I think he should have a really good year. Because I look at it this way. DeMarco Murray is a good running back, and he got over 2,000 yards in Dallas. Ezekiel Elliott, I feel, is on a whole nother level compared to DeMarco Murray. Yes. So I feel like he could easily, duplicate those numbers from, 2 years ago? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm excited to see what Ezekiel Elliott's going to do. But I do feel like he's being drafted a little bit too high. Like, his ADP, it's in the first round, like anywhere from first to, the 6th range. In our keeper league, I think he'll go in no later than the 2nd round. Yeah, I could definitely see taking him in the 2nd. But, no matter how good a running back is or a wide receiver or a quarterback, there's always going to be a learning curve when you go from college to the NFL because everybody's faster, stronger.
So I'm going to be excited to see how he is. And I mean, if he falls to me, because where I sit in the draft, since I was second pretty much from winning it, like that snake draft, I'm going to be able to snake around. So if he's falling to me, I might pick him up and have the Gurley Elliott duo, which would be pretty sweet.
Yeah. What about receivers? Who are some rookie receivers you're high on?
Laquan Treadwell was one of them. He went to the Vikings, and some of his
Nick
stats,
Caputo's Vikings.
Yeah, he finished the year with 82 catches, 1,153 yards, and 11 scores. That's definitely going to breathe some life into that Minnesota offense, so they don't have to sit there and kick field goals.
That's just mean.
I'm sorry, I love you guys, but he ran a 4.65 40. So I mean that's kind of, I mean it's fast, but on the kind of the slower end of that. He has great hands as a receiver. Those 50-50 balls where he's streaking down the field and you just throw it and pray to God he catches it. He's very good at coming down with the 50-50 ball. So that's going to give what's his name, quarterback?
Teddy Bridgewater.
Oh, Teddy two-step. It's going to give him a great target to be able to throw to and take a little bit off of AP because, AP's getting old. So, I mean, they're still going to run heavily with him. And I feel like if they would just unleash Teddy just a little bit and let him run some, that it could be kind of a watered-down Carolina with, good running back and good running from the quarterback. So, but this gives them an option to open up the field a little bit more because the receiving corps has not been stellar.
That's true. As far as the whole speed thing, if you remember 2 seasons ago, he had that really bad injury when they played Auburn. So I think he'll get faster as he progresses through his career, but they don't really need a speed guy. They need a guy that they can throw it to on 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 6 and get the first down. They didn't have that last year. And I think with Laquan Treadwell, they will have that guy. I see him having not a ton of yards, but I could see him having quite a few touchdowns.
Kind of like the opposite of Andre Johnson like 4 or 5 years ago, how he would have thousands of yards and just 2 or 3 touchdowns. But like he plays more of like in the middle where a lot of the teams have trouble, getting like how the slot will go in there. But he plays the middle of the field really well with, mixing everything up and coming down with the balls. He can burn people going to the post, but, I mean, where those 3rd down conversions are going to come from, it's going to be in the middle of the field. Do we got questions? Or?
We do have Adam Gumbert in the chat room. Hey, Adam.
What's
How
up?
you doing? But, no, I agree. I think Treadwell will be a pretty solid pickup. The receiver I'm excited for the most, and it kind of hurts me to say this because he plays for Cleveland, but it's Corey Coleman.
Coleman?
I think he was their first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
I believe he was out of Baylor.
Yeah.
So he's paired with former Baylor quarterback Robert Griffin III, who I actually think might surprise some people. I'm rooting for RG3.
I am too. I think it's hard to say anything about Cleveland is favorable, but that is one of the best things that could have happened to him because Cleveland's always been just a quarterback away from being a decent team because they got Duke Johnson, Isaiah Crowell. Both are good running backs. I think Duke is going to get he's one of my sleeper players for this year.
He's a very good pass catcher.
Because, I was about to say he was top 5 in the league in receptions by the end of the year. So I think those numbers are going to increase. His rushing is going to increase. But having that Baylor wide receiver, because Baylor is known for high-octane offenses.
Yes.
So having that there with RG3, who's used to running, the faster offenses where, they're going to burn some people and the running game's going to look a lot better.
I agree. No, I think, I'm not saying that he's going to be outstanding, but I think that tandem is going to surprise some people.
Yeah, it's going to be, a 1-2 punch, or as we call it in our fantasy team, it's going to be a really good ultimate punch for you to own. If you don't like me, I do not take quarterbacks till 8th, 9th round, somewhere around that.
It worked for you this year. You had
It
Cam
did.
Newton.
I have Cam Newton, who's going to be my keeper for years to come. But if you don't like taking quarterbacks early like I do, definitely keep an eye on RG3 because he's not on a lot of people's radars. So you're going to be able to get him for a really good price. And if you can pair him up with the rookie wide receiver,
Corey Coleman.
I'm horrible with names.
It's all good.
And these rookies, I got to learn all these names. But that's going to be a tandem that you need to look out for.
That's true. What about just some sleepers in general?
We'll bring it back to the Tennessee Titans for a little bit. DeMarco Murray. He's one of my sleepers that I'm definitely looking for this year because he had 193 attempts last year for 702 yards and 6 touchdowns compared to the over 2,000 yards he had with Dallas. He came into the Eagles. They did not utilize him in the way that he's supposed to be used.
They didn't utilize anybody.
That's right. You're right. But the Titans, like I said earlier about that offensive line coming together, we're a young offensive line, but we're mean. John Robinson's our new GM, and he came in the draft with an identity. And he hit free agency with an identity. And that identity is he wants to be mean. He wants to knock you upside the head. And that's what he's going to do. He's gotten 2 bone-crushing running backs right now with DeMarco Murray and Derek Henry. So they're going to be able to run the ball. And I have a feeling that, his attempts are going to be right there in the 180, 190. But I'm going to say he's going to have at least 1,400 yards, 9 touchdowns this year.
I like it. Good choice.
Thank you.
One that a lot of people have kind of forgotten about, and again, I'm going to go to a Steelers rival team, Brashad Perriman for the Ravens. Missed his entire rookie year. I believe he was out of UCF. He had a foot injury, I want to say, so he missed all of last season. But I think he'll bounce back, and I actually think he'll have a solid season because Joe Flacco does love to throw the ball.
He does, and he likes to throw it deep.
And you can get him for a good price because everyone's going to have the injury concerns because he hasn't played a down of professional football before. I think he's someone who you can get in a late round and then might end up being like a mid-range wide receiver too.
Yeah, because anytime, you look at the Ravens with Joe Falco.
Shane Falco.
But every time you look at him, he likes to throw it. They're always going to be throwing it. Yes, they've got some pretty good running backs. They drafted a running back, but his identity is he throws the ball and he throws it deep. And not only does he throw it deep, that is a very, very accurate deep ball that he throws. I think it's one of the most accurate in the NFL.
Yeah.
So being able to have, a speedy wide receiver that's able to go down there and, track down those balls, and they don't even have to track it down very often because it's usually right in the breadbasket as it's coming down.
Another is another receiver who missed his rookie campaign, but Kevin White from Chicago.
Chicago.
Da Bears. Big.
Adam said Treadwell equals Brandon Marshall.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree with that, Adam.
very good comparison.
Thank you, Zach, who's sitting off to the side.
Our peanut gallery.
But he's a big target.
Yeah.
And I like Jay Cutler as a quarterback. He doesn't have the greatest attitude in the world, but I think he's actually pretty good.
Like if
he's another guy that you can get good value from.
Like he's good. There's always something wrong with him, and for the longest time, his offensive line could not protect him. So you were always scared about getting injured. And how good can a man be when he's getting thrown to the ground 15 times a game?
That's true. That's very true.
It happens.
What about busts?
I know Ryan Tannehill was on a list last year of being a breakout player.
Ryan Tannehill should be on the bust list every year.
And that's where I put him. He had 4,210 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. He had 141 rushing yards with a touchdown. Not stellar numbers, but, not as bad as most quarterbacks. But, like, this year, people are like, all right, this is the year that Ryan Tannehill's going to go off.
And it hasn't happened yet.
Miami, just look at me for a second. It's going to be a long year for you guys. Yeah, you're going to get some running back help. You got a gas mask, pot smoking offensive lineman.
This is what I'd do if I were the Miami Dolphins. This is what we're gonna use for our Disney song challenge. I put everything about Miami in this thing and just
tip it over.
Yep.
Ryan Tannehill he came in, he had a super high ceiling, but Miley Cyrus and her wrecking ball just brought that ceiling down on everybody. Yeah, I just brought a Miley Cyrus into fantasy football. Boom! That's how good I am.
I'm done.
Did I just come in like a wrecking ball, dude?
You did come in like a wrecking ball. I agree. I would put Ryan Tannehill on there. This may be just like a cop-out answer, but I'm not trusting anyone on the Philadelphia Eagles or San Francisco 49ers offense. None.
Now, I think, it's hard to say this, but I think Sammy Biscuits could potentially be good this year. I mean, as long as the giant ace bandage doesn't hurt himself. Talking Samuel Bradford.
Or he stops pitching a fit about the fact that the Eagles drafted a quarterback number 2 overall.
And, bro, it happens. You have not been the most reliable of quarterbacks.
Wentz will be starting by week 7.
In your entire career. So I think give Wentz a few weeks to kind of learn the offense a little bit. Don't just throw him out into the fire. I think Samuel will have some somewhat respectable numbers throughout the halfway through the season, but I could definitely see them wanting to try to go with the new blood. Probably like week 8 or 9.
I say week 7 is when Carson Wentz will start, if not before.
You never know. But Ryan Matthews, I think Ryan Matthews is going to be the savior of that team. I think he is going to go off this year. This is his year to shine, as long as he doesn't break his clavicle. It's for you, Willis.
Again.
Remember when Willis had such hype for him and then the first game?
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yep.
But that's who I think is on the rise for Philly is definitely Ryan Matthews.
So, any closing thoughts? We're coming up on our time limit here.
I'm going to say that one of the rising stars that I'm looking for this year, it kills me to say this, but be on the lookout for Jameis Winston.
No, I agree. He's good. I'll give him that.
He had a good year last year, but I think he's going to bump his way in to possibly top 5, top 6 quarterback play this year. That's like my bold statement.
I see top 10. I think top 5 is a little too high.
We'll see.
But
it's got to be bold.
I'll say he'll be at highest the 7 to 10 range.
I'm going to say 5 or 6. I'm bold. I have drank the Kool-Aid.
Let's make a bet right now. You say he'll finish 6 or higher.
Yeah.
All right, and I'll say he'll finish 7 or lower.
Okay.
What do you want to do for the stakes?
What about either pie in the face or just the other person has to do the ice bucket challenge?
How about this? If I win, I get to kick you out of the Nerd Cave Network.
See, that doesn't work for me at all.
but as a consolation, if you win, then Zach can kick you out of the Nerd Cave Network.
See, this Just doesn't work
How
for me.
how about we bet a nice steak dinner on it?
I can do that.
So it be written, so shall it be done.
So let it be done.
So hopefully you guys enjoyed that fantasy football segment. I know we'll be posting more info in the coming weeks about the fantasy football podcast, which has yet to be named. But that's another thing that will be. If you have suggestions, let us know.
I was about to say, yeah. And then, I mean, if you're excited about the fantasy football podcast, let us know, because we're definitely excited for it. And there's also one thing we forgot to mention about this fantasy show. We have somebody that will be on from time to time.
Yeah, someone who
He used to embezzle from us, but we've
allegedly
embezzled from us. But we have, we're the bigger men. We're gonna look past this. But Scotty Willis Cannon
will be making his return.
We'll be making a return for some fantasy football talk.
So it should be fun.
Yeah,
It's been a while since I've talked to Mr. Cannon.
it has. So, like I said, if you guys have any suggestions that you want us to talk about, some players that you want us to kind of give you some info on, keeper suggestions, let us know. I mean, we're here.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have any suggestions, you can go to, as we said earlier, our Facebook group, which is facebook.com/group/NerdCaveNetwork.
Or you could just put it in the search bar, Nerd Cave Network, and we'll pop up.
So it was fun discussing fantasy
It
football.
was.
We'll be starting the podcast probably sometime late June, early July is the early tentative date. But coming up next, we've got a little bit of gameplay, special Throwback Thursday on a Saturday. As you guys know, every Thursday I do a Throwback Thursday Let's Play, and I decided for this very special occasion, I dusted off the old Xbox 360. And playing some Banjo-Kazooie, one of my all-time favorite video games.
I have a bunch of them on that rare replay that I got. Haven't played them yet, but I want to dust those off too. There's so many games to play.
Oh, absolutely. So guys, stick around, and we'll be doing Throwback Thursday and then a special episode of the Derek Diamond Experience with a very special guest, the programming director from Pensacon, Mr. Steve Wise. We talk about Pensacon, how he got involved, how Pensacon went this year, a little preview of next year, as well as some movie reviews. So definitely stick around for that.
Sexy.
Yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this segment and stick around for more.